President Obama completes his first 100 days in office Wednesday. I'll tell you more about CNN's special coverage in just a moment. First, let's look at what the president's policies have done for or to the housing market. John Adams covers the housing industry in his weekly radio program and newspaper column. John, great to see you. Wish you were here alongside me here in Atlanta, but great to have you on the program again.
Thanks, Tony.
Hey, what's your overall assessment of the housing sector? Is the patient at death's door, in critical condition, critical but stable? What?
I think the market is stabilized. I am more optimistic than some of the prognosticators that we've heard, and here's why. We saw in the fourth quarter, sales of existing homes or resales dipped by about 11%. That has been repeated. We've stabilized in first quarter, and what that means is the combination of low prices, great interest rates, and the president's stimulus package have apparently stabilized the market.
Whoa! All right. Well, let's drill down on a couple of these points here. As you mentioned, February we saw a pop in existing home sales. Were you surprised that March numbers came in down 7.1% year over year?
Yeah, but that was better than expected.
Yeah.
And the reality is that we are down about 10 or 11% from where we were before the Lehman Brothers meltdown in September. And that's what I'm using for a baseline. And as a result, I feel like we've stabilized. We may be dragging bottom, and we may drag bottom for a while, but I don't expect it to get any worse. I think the president's programs are working.
Well, that's all right. We'll talk about that. First-time buyers made up, what, 53% of his existing home sales in March. Now, is this being fueled by kind of a bottom-up recovery and one that will last with these first-time buyers jumping into the market?
Well, we hope so. The problem we're dealing with right now is that 50% of all resale homes are foreclosure homes.
Yeah.
That's very unusual, and those prices are very depressed, and we won't see this again. That's why this is such a great time for first-time home buyers to jump in the market, because they get the combination of low interest rates
and the tax credit.
And prices I don't think we'll see again, and then that $8,000 tax credit. This is a great time. That's what's fueling the current market that we have. Now we need to start climbing out.
How about the refinance activity? That's certainly helping.
No question, and we're seeing a lot of people, especially through the president's housing initiative, are being allowed to refinance that were otherwise cut out of the market. That was a smart move on the president's part. I think it's taking time. The housing market is sort of like a cruise ship on the way to Cancun. You can't just stop it. You have to give it time to turn around, but I really think we're seeing some good signs here.
The biggest troubling sign out there is the number of people who have entered the foreclosure process. As you know, John, there could be as many, Jerry Willis tells us, as 3 million foreclosures this year. I mean, how much of a drag on any rebound in this housing recovery is the foreclosure story going to be?
We just don't know yet, and that's the question. The problem is we've got these adjustable rate mortgages that began artificially low, and as they reset, the people can't afford the higher payments. And when that happens, the president's housing initiative is designed to help some of those people stay in their houses if at all possible, either through a modification or a refinance. But barring that, there are going to be people, Tony, that just can't afford to live in the homes that they purchased, and those are going to have to go through the process.
So let's get to the report card here, if you would, John.
Okay.
What grade would you give President Obama for focusing his attention on the housing sector and devising plans to hopefully lead us to recovery?
I'm going to give President Obama a B. I think he has worked seriously. I think he has made some good choices. The housing initiative that has the refinancing and the modifications, I think that's smart. There are other things I'd love to see him do, but that would put him in A+ category, and I'm not sure many politicians spend much time there.
Right. What grade do you give FDIC Chairman Sheila Bair for her attempts to mitigate foreclosures and place a floor under this thing?
Sheila Bair at FDIC has been talking the talk, but she has not been walking the walk. And what we're seeing is FDIC, she's making all these wonderful pronouncements that the banks need to lend more money, but unfortunately, the FDIC regulators are telling banks that they need to back off on lending, that they need to boost their cash and their
their cash reserves,
their core capital positions, and that is really having a chilling effect on banking. So I give her a C at this point for she's saying the right things, but they're not getting translated down to the regulatory level.
What grade would you give Housing and Urban Development Secretary Sean Donovan for pushing banks receiving TARP funds to modify these mortgages under the president's, what is it, the Making Home Affordable initiative?
Right. Secretary Donovan is an extremely bright gentleman. He is a Harvard-educated architect and engineer. Most of his experience has been in multifamily housing, and I think he is still trying to grasp the job of helping Americans stay in their detached single-family homes.
I see.
That's largely being done through FHA at this point, which is a subsidiary of HUD, but we're not seeing FHA step up to the table like they ought to right now, and for that, I'm going to give Secretary Donovan a D. He needs to refocus his efforts away from high-speed elevators in New York City and begin pushing FHA to make loans available to more Americans now.
John, appreciate it.
Okay.
Well done. Thank you, sir. See you next time.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks.
And we want you to join us on President Obama's 100th day in office for the